Thank you. Second? Any discussion? Mrs. Capiello, I have a motion moved by Mrs. Manisi and seconded by Mrs. Kimberly Scott Hayden. Roll call, please.
Ms. Carbonell?
Yes.
Mr. Cohan?
Yes.
Mrs. Conte Mackey?
Yes.
Mr. McDowell?
Yes.
Mrs. Manisi?
Yes.
Mr. Nasta?
Yes.
Mrs. Scott Heeden?
Yes.
Mrs. Williams?
Abstain on 1 through 6, yes to 7 and 8.
Ms. Santana?
Yes. Next, we have our communications that are reflected on the personnel agenda. I would like to take this moment to speak about an outstanding man that served Union as well. Congressman Payne was a dedicated public servant whose lifelong commitment to social justice and constituent service made a lasting impact on the community and beyond. Throughout his 6 terms in Congress, Congressman Payne tirelessly advocated for progressive policies that aim to improve the lives of all Americans. From his strong support for Medicare for All and the Green New Deal to his efforts to address community, gun violence, and expand access to affordable child care and housing, he was a champion for equity and opportunity for all. Congressman Payne's leadership was instrumental in securing funding for critical infrastructure projects, including the national replacement of lead pipes that significantly benefited our region. His dedication to clean drinking water and environmental justice exemplified his commitment to ensuring a healthier and safer future for generations to come. And he was also a friend to Union. I would like to take this moment of silence and give our condolences to the family and think about Congressman Payne Jr. Thank you. Thank you all. Next, we will have comments from the public on resolutions and all other matters. We will have comments from the public on resolutions and all other matters. Seeing no comments from the public, I will pass it along to Dr. Benequista, the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Madam President. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight at our board meeting. I'll go through our agenda. We're going to highlight our Teachers of the Year tonight. A small glimpse is going to be geared towards one of our projects that we completed this year. As always, I'll review our HIB findings and reports, as well as our student liaisons. Reached out to me today, and with AP exams coming up, it was a very hard decision, but I told them that we could share some positive news about. I think we need to focus on our AP exams, but they were very concerned about, not being able to be here, and I think that shows their dedication to not just themselves, but our district as well. So our Teachers of the Year this year, it's always awesome when you could highlight your Teachers of the Year. I want to just, I don't have enough time to speak about all of them, but I picked a couple quotes that I feel maybe don't highlight them in a way that is going to show everything they do, but their peers picked them as the Teachers of the Year in their schools, which say a lot right there. A lot of the teachers that are on here, or a couple of at least, are also participating in a group that I brought together. They're volunteering to have aspirations to be a future leader, which I think says a lot, because they're leading every day in their classroom. They're leading their students. I'm sure they're leading their peers too. A lot of times, the teachers that get voted for Teacher of the Year, their peers go to them for assistance. So one of the things I wanted to say is a good teacher can inspire hope, ignite imagination, and instill the love of learning. To instill the love of learning in a student is tremendous. The students, even 20, 30 years later, are going to remember the teachers that left that impact on them. Guaranteed. Sometimes the students end up going into education because they had that teacher. So I think it's very important that, you guys be recognized, because I'm sure you're leaving that love for learning with your students. A mediocre teacher tells, a good teacher explains, a superior teacher demonstrates, the great teacher inspires. And again, kind of connected, but I'm sure you guys are inspiring your students every day, as well as your colleagues around. I don't think you would have had other colleagues, vote if you weren't. And then the last thing before I call you guys up and would just like to recognize you in front of everyone and give you a certificate, is if you have to put someone on a pedestal, put teachers. They are society's heroes. I think a lot of times in society, a lot of people do not realize what it takes every day in and out to educate our students. And that's not just here, that's everywhere. Unless you're living in those shoes, it's really hard to understand the demands every day. So I don't think we should forget that, and I want to let everyone, all our teachers, all our staff, our administrators, our support staff, everyone, we're here to highlight our Teachers of the Year, but teaching is such a special profession, but it's so demanding. And I think we can't highlight our school staff enough. So as I call your name, please come up. Ms. Watson, do you want to join me in handing out the certificates? Along with this is the county does have a breakfast to highlight all our Teachers of the Year throughout our county. Madam President, Madam Vice President. So they get to go to a breakfast as well, which is nice that every person from the county, all the schools, they do the same thing. They nominate, and it's a special day, and it's at Kane, and that'll be coming up soon. So Cindy Antonese, come on up. So after you guys come up, we'll take a picture. Congratulations. And then if you could hang out, I would like to get a group picture with everyone, with our board president and vice president. But congratulations. Do you want to?
You're going to
we'll get individual pictures and then come in the middle.
3, 2,
Cynthia Carhart. Some of the teachers obviously weren't available to come tonight. Susan Craig. Congratulations.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Christina DeGioia. Congratulations.
Hang on, right there.
Michael Ferrito. Solomon Lama. Congratulations. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Kathy Lombardo. Catherine Martins.
You're getting a hug. Would you like a hug? Thank you so much. Come this way. Yes, that's yours. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Jessica Mendez. Catherine.
Yes, yes.
Michelle Shirago. There was a couple that couldn't be with us, but I just want to let everyone know, instead of just emailing, a congratulations letter, it was so nice to go to every school. It's challenging, but to get to every school, I couldn't leave a school out. But to see their reactions and letting them know that with their administrator that they were Teacher of the Year was amazing. Touched myself to be able to share that with you guys. What I would like to do is get a group picture, but there's a lot of administrators here supporting their staff. So administrators, if you could come up in the background as well and get in the picture. I just want to say thank you for all you do in supporting our teachers, and I appreciate you spending time, even coming out tonight to show your support. So if everyone could come up, we'll get a group picture, and thank you again. Congratulations. Teachers in the front, yeah, administrators, and Madam President, Vice President, in the middle. All right.
I'm going to stand right here.
We'll tell him that. Oh my God, Calderon, really? I think you need to get in front. Oh, yeah, like go away. The tall people? Yeah, go this way. The tall people, like go where?
I can go one step up.
No, you need to be in the front.
Yeah, but I want to block it.
Are you making levels?
Again, thank you again. And thank you again, everyone that came out to support our Teachers of the Year. I really do appreciate it. So at this point, I'm going to ask Daniel Riegel to come up from Schneider. He is going to be sharing a glimpse of, we did a project and where it's at to support our district. I'm going to bring up you could clip this on and then we'll switch.
Well, that's easier, but if you got it, you're good. Okay. Yeah, I don't know how you. It'll just click a little easier. Okay. All right, thanks. All right, all good? Okay, can everyone hear me? Awesome. Well, yeah, it's great to be here. Thanks so much for the time. It's been a few years since I've been at one of these board meetings, so happy to be back. Really just to share a bit of an update on the Energy Savings Improvement Program that we had done with the district. So to introduce myself, my name's Dan Riggle. I'm with a company called Schneider Electric. So we work with schools and towns all across the state and the country, but I work just in New Jersey, doing energy savings projects and capital improvement projects. So just as kind of a bit of background, we had started working with the district many years ago, looking at ways to help the district save money through utility costs, things like electric and natural gas, as well as ways to upgrade the facilities. As many of you are probably aware, a lot of the buildings in Union, including the schools, are much older. So there was a lot of older infrastructure. So when we started this program, we were trying to help the district find ways to upgrade some of the facilities, as well as reduce costs. So we were able to put together a pretty well-rounded project, that was really driven by savings in the facilities, doing things like new LED lighting, like solar on the roofs, as well as over some of the parking lots you may have noticed at the high school in Hannah Caldwell, and kind of used a lot of those savings opportunities to pay for some of the facility improvements. So new HVAC systems. There were a couple areas where air conditioning was added, and we really worked with the district administration and were able to put together kind of this comprehensive project, funding about $15 million worth of improvements at no cost to taxpayers, basically using those savings to fund the improvements, getting some extra funding from the state to kind of put all this together. So it was a bit of a process. Just wanted to share kind of the background, and then we can talk about kind of what the current performance is. But overall, we started the process with the district in 2018, 2019, developed the scope of work, and really installed and implemented everything in kind of the early to late COVID era, 2020, 2021, 2022. And then now we're in this what we call measurement and verification period, where we're looking at the project and seeing, okay, how did we do with the implementation of this various scopes of work. So some of the things that I mentioned that were included, solar at all 10 of the schools, mostly on the roof, but a couple over the parking lots. A big savings opportunity, like I mentioned, was new LED lighting. So basically taking the old fluorescent tubes and replacing them with LEDs. And then in a couple of areas, upgrading some of the ceiling grid as well, just to give it a little bit more modern look, like at Burnett and Battle Hill. Some other things you wouldn't notice unless you're hanging out in the janitor's closet, more efficient electrical transformers, things behind the scenes and on the roof like new HVAC units that would add air conditioning. So there was a lot of kind of behind the scenes work that was saving natural gas, saving electric for the district, but also replacing a lot of these older systems like the Hannah Caldwell chiller and cooling tower that was on the roof, and kind of bringing it up to a more modern set of infrastructure. Another big need was addressing a lot of the roofing systems. We were able to do some partial and some complete roof repairs and replacements at 6 of the schools, roughly 400,000 square feet, so a pretty good amount of coverage there. And then that allowed solar to be installed on top of some of those roofs. So as far as, how are we doing now? How's the project performing? We do have over a year's worth of solar data. That's really the biggest source of savings within this project. And really across the board, we're at 101%. So basically what we expected when we put together this project and the State Energy Office reviewed it, we're about 1% over what the expectation was. We have this little graphic with kind of a school by school breakdown with kind of that gray straight line being 100% what the expectation was, and then some schools have produced more power than we expected, which is a good thing because every kilowatt hour that the solar is producing is saving the district money, and then some schools being a little bit below, but all in all averaging out to just 1% above what was expected. So that's good news in terms of savings. So just to kind of look at some of the bills, because this is based on the utility bills that the district is paying. If we look at February at the high school, just as an example, the solar bill, which is shown on the left here, which represents about 43% of what the high school used in that month. In the summer it would be higher, but we see the rate for the solar was a little under 2 cents a kilowatt hour versus the rate that was paid for all the electricity that comes from the grid from PSE&G was almost 10 cents, right? So 2 cents versus 10 cents, about 5 times lower. And again, it can change a little bit per month, but the good news is the solar is working. It's producing just a hair more than we expected, but for every unit that's produced, it's saving the district a pretty substantial amount compared to the grid. So what are utility costs going to be from PSE&G? We don't really know. That can vary moving forward, but the one good thing about the solar is it's a locked-in rate for 15 years. Goes up by 1.5% every year versus your utility bill at home or at the school. It's going to go up and down, and you don't really know what it's going to do for the next 15 years. So that's kind of a snapshot of how the savings are being benefiting the district. And then kind of on the more global level, a lot of the other things we talked about, or I talked about with the HVAC, the heating and the cooling systems, and the new lighting, how's that performing? So we have, as part of our agreement, this measurement and verification plan, looking at a full year of data to see how are we performing. So it's a little bit more complicated when you look at everything going on in the buildings and what are the savings from the project. But we're about 6 months into that analysis period. We do have another few months. Really, it runs until I think end of June. It takes a couple months to get all the bills from PSE&G because it's all based on what the actual data is showing. So probably in the fall we would have kind of that full year period of the consumption and the usage. So right now, with the bills through the end of December, we're looking pretty much right on track with where we would want to be for savings. We do work with the facilities team, and we're always looking out for are there ways to save additional energy. If we find a piece of equipment that's on 24/7, we want to address that. And there are some kind of changes that happen, right? If the summer school schedule changes a little bit, and more of the schools are utilized in the summer, obviously that's going to mean a little bit more runtime on the air conditioning. So there's those types of things that we have to factor in, but overall things look to be on track for the building usage and the energy usage there as well. And really when we set up the agreement, we focused on the 3 most critical schools that had the most square footage and the most savings from this project, which were the high school, Burnett, and Hannah Caldwell, to really focus on the biggest kind of ticket items to prove performance. So yeah, we've been working closely with Yolanda and kind of reviewing more of the details. That's really high level, but again, we'll have kind of the full year over the next probably 3 to 4 months to share out. We do have more than a year of the solar data, so that's good. And overall things seem to be right where we would want them to be. So that's really all I had to share, and I'm happy to take any questions if you'd like.
Any questions from the board? I'm sorry. Any questions from the board?
Yes.
Yes, please.
I'm just curious, in looking at the graph of the performance, Is there anything that accounts for the fluctuation from one building to the next?
There is, it would be kind of a little bit of speculation to say exactly what it could be. I think there could be, like a panel that goes bad or something at one of the schools. Generally the weather would be about the same, right, as far as like how sunny it is at one school. When you get a cloud come over, it does affect things, but that really wouldn't, cause that big of a difference. So, there were a couple things that our team mentioned, and now that you put me on the spot, I'm kind of blanking on it. So, I would have to get back to you on kind of what those...
I mean, it's obviously a narrow range, and
Yeah.
every school was above 95%, so it's negligible. I just was curious for understanding.
I'd have to go back to my notes, and we had a couple ideas, but they were still, somewhat speculative as far as, why some were a little higher versus lower, so,
Thank you.
yeah.
One more question.
Yes.
On page 14, bullet point number 2 says, not all meters are being tracked or normalized. What does that mean exactly?
Yeah, so basically, if we think about something like solar, right, like it's very easy to track, right? You put a meter, you see exactly how much power is coming out of the solar building. So this is referring to everything else we did in the building that's a bit more difficult to track, right? So if you think about this facility, if you put more efficient lighting in, how can you measure and verify exactly how much that saved you for the next year? So that normalization process, I don't think I used that term there, but we basically have to like weather normalize. So if, if we're looking at everything we did in a building, we have to factor in, was it a hotter summer and a colder winter, right? Because we don't want to, skew the data one way or another for that. Or did the operation change? So because of the amount of legwork that kind of goes into, accurately being able to represent, what are the savings associated with this project versus maybe the use changed, or maybe the season was different with heating and cooling loads. So really because of like that, those were the 3 schools where there was the most savings associated with the new HVAC systems, with the new lighting. Obviously the high school is very big, and we did a lot at Burnett as well. So really like the juice, isn't necessarily worth the squeeze when you're looking at, the smaller schools and kind of the cost it would take to prove beyond, a reasonable doubt, what those savings were. So we're kind of focusing on the bigger ones.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
To Michael's point, what criteria do you use to determine how many panels go in a particular building or school, in this case?
Yeah, so really it's driven by, what the available areas are. So if it's going on the roof, we want to make sure that the roof is new and has, a warranty that's going to last as long as the solar system will last, which is at least 15 years. And then after that, it's based on how much the building uses, because you don't want to produce more power over the course of the year than the building uses. So, that's really kind of the main criteria. And then it's kind of going through with the administration and the facility staff. It's saying, okay, where do you guys want to see solar? Where are you okay with it? Are there areas, you don't want to see it where it's visible from the street or whatever? Because different communities have different takes on that. And then, once you kind of get that input, we came up with a design on what made sense. For example, the high school, there were some older roof sections that we didn't put solar on because the roof needed to be replaced. There wasn't the budget at the time, so we kind of focused on a certain area. Does that help?
Somewhat.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
You probably answered the question already. The high school, Hannah Caldwell, they're in the parking lots. Is the reason why because of the roofs on those 2 schools weren't, it wasn't good to put the panels on?
So we still have some on the roof at the high school, and I believe we have some on the roof of Hannah Caldwell as well. It was more so kind of looking across all the schools, which parking lots might make sense from, are they big enough to build one of the canopy structures that we have, or, does the district want to see it there? So we kind of looked at all the parking lots, and those were the 2 that made the most sense. But there are still some on the roof as well at those 2 schools.
And why aren't all of them on the roof at the high school?
I think it was because the cost to, a lot of the roof had to get replaced or repaired. So the cost to do that much more roof work just wasn't, it was too much basically to replace more of the roof to do more solar. So we looked at the parking lot and that, was still economical. Yeah.
Thank
you. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Any other questions from the board? I have a question,
Yeah.
if not. I don't mean to get granular, but I live on the Washington side of town.
Okay.
So for Washington, I don't know if my memory serves me correctly, they had quite an issue with their roof. Was that replaced, and are the solar panels there?
Yeah, that was part of the project was, we're replacing the roof at Washington, because I think there's some skylights there, right, in that school? Do you?
When I drive by, I don't look up.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to kind of go in the building. But I believe that was one of the main schools that had, roofing issues at the time and some leaks. So, I believe that was.
So it's safe to say that got upgraded? And
Yeah,
those-
the roof
'cause
got replaced.
There's none in the parking lot from what I remember, from what I know.
No,
Yeah,
no,
so it's all
so the
on-
roof got replaced and then the solar went on top of the new roof, yeah. Mm-hmm.
That was my question. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
Daniel, thank you very much for coming and sharing. I'm looking forward to hearing another update in a couple months and see where we're at, because I know Ms. Kuhn is really hoping that it does save our district some money. While it's coming back up on the TV, I would just like to continue with my presentation. And yes, the roofs at Washington were giving us a very hard time.
Yes.
So it was very nice that this project did, because it was ongoing where we couldn't figure out and solve that leak. And I'm sure Mr. Matthews could share the frustration, because, many times we were dealing with that after a bad rainstorm.
I've shared them with him.
So this month was Arab American Heritage Month, and then again, I'm not going to read through everything, but there were some of the small amount of activities our district did. The nice thing is our administrators are really fostering every month activities that are dealing with whatever's recognized that month, heritage-wise. And I have to say, through Dr. Perez's leadership, she's really communicating with the principals to make sure that different lessons and activities are embedded during the month. And this month, as you see, a lot of it, library was embedded in utilizing the library books, bringing them into classes. There was some, I believe it was the high school did fashion design, and just the teachers sharing a lot of different projects, a lot of highlighting a lot of people as well that are represented with this month with Arab American Heritage Month. So as I have to monthly, I want to review the affirmed cases of our HIB. We had one at Burnett, two were unfounded at Franklin, one unfounded at Henna Caldwell, one founded at Kiwami, three at the high school founded, and five inconclusive. That was affirming last month. And reporting this month for this period of time, it was three founded throughout the district, zero unfounded, zero inconclusive, and the three founded were two at Kiwami, one at Jefferson. And there was one HIB investigation that was reinvestigated, and it's 33A, and it was founded after it was reinvestigated. So essentially, during this period of time, it was now 6. And I know I mentioned earlier, but Niesa was able to make it to us, so thank you. You know, I know we all have a lot going on with school studies. Do you want to just speak on it? Do you want to plug in your device? Or you could just speak freely if you want. So this, put on your jacket, and then I'll plug this in if you want. Hopefully, I think we can do it. That should be coming up.
I don't think so. Yeah, I did. Is it this one?
No. Mr. Torres.
Password.
I think it's off. Did not go on Dr. B. Yeah. Where did my mouse go? That's actually crazy. Yeah. Oh yeah. She said log into yours. Google yeah. I think it's shared with you. No, Gia shared it. Gia shared it, not me.
I don't think I got it.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone's having a good week. So for March and April, by me and Gia. So tomorrow is Take Your Child to Work Day, and it's an exciting annual event at our school because we do a lot of events. And tomorrow, a lot of NHS students will be reading to students in the library. Some of us will be playing games in our classes with all of our teachers' kids. May 1st is Commitment Day, so it's when all of us seniors show what schools we are attending, and we represent our schools by wearing shirts. On Saturday, we had an autism awareness run that was held at the high school that was hosted by our town. And this week is Autism Awareness Week at our school, and we're doing a spirit week, and tomorrow, I think, is tie-dye day. Something like that. The spring sports. So currently we have 280 high school students, athletes participating in the spring sports. There are 7 sports: spring track, boys and girls, girls flag football, baseball, softball, boys volleyball, boys tennis, and golf. We also have 140 middle school students, athletes participating in the 4 sports: baseball, softball, track, and volleyball. So on April 5th at our school, the Union High School girls flag football team played their first ever girls flag football game in the UHS history. They defeated New Brunswick 39-14 for their first win of the season. The UHS track program competed in the East Brunswick Invitational on April 13th. The girls sprint medley relay finished Friday. Cassidy Kidd, Macarla Peralta, Liana Mascot, and Janae Kamara. Laura Wildo finished first in the girls' high jump. They also competed in the Morris Hill relays on April 20th. The girls' sprint medley relay finished in first and qualified for the nationals. And then this week also at our school is a pep rally tomorrow on Friday, and there's also a military ball on Friday. Thank you.
And thank you, Nisa, for joining us tonight and sharing those great things going on in our schools. Madam President, I just want to thank you, thank the community, and that will conclude my superintendent's report.
Next, we will have the Education Student Discipline Committee Chair, Mr. Cohan, to present the resolutions to be voted on tonight.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd just like to acknowledge that resolutions E1 and E1A were adopted by the board at its work session last week, and resolution E11A is for information purposes only. No vote is required. So on behalf of the committee, I'd like to move resolutions E11 through E6.
Second.
Thank you, sir. Any discussion? So, Mrs. Capiello, this motion is moved by Mr. Cohan and seconded by Ms. Kimberly Scott Hayden. Roll call, please.
Ms. Carbonell?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mrs. Conte Mackey? Mr. McDowell?
Yes.
Mrs. Manisi?
Yes.
Mr. Nasta?
Yes.
Mrs. Scott Heeden?
Yes.
Mrs. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Santana?
Yes. Thank you so much, Mrs. Capiello. Next, we will have Fiscal and Planning Committee Chair, Vice President Ms. Carbonell, to present the resolutions to be voted on tonight.
Good evening, everyone. I just want to remind the board, as well as the public, that we voted on Resolution F7 at the work session, and Resolution F40 is for informational purposes only. I also want to take a moment to address Resolution 9A and just give a shout out. You know, I know that the community heavily supports our school system, and we don't always recognize them, and I just wanted to take a minute to do that. From the Policemen's Benevolent Pronunciation Association, Khalid Jahid Memorial Scholarship, Douglas Kruger Memorial Scholarship, Wayne Russo Memorial Scholarship, Connect One Bank, the Vogel Memorial Prize for Excellence in French, Joseph Cryan Scholarship, Jason Lopez Scholarship, Juneteenth Scholarship, Crystal Scretchen Scholarship, and the Chamber of Commerce. I want to thank them all for providing these scholarships to our youth. With that said, upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Fiscal and Planning Committee presents the following resolutions for the board's consideration. F1 through F41, with the exception of F40 and F7.
Second.
Thank you so much. Any discussion? This motion has been properly moved by Mrs. Carbonell and seconded by Mrs. Manisi. Can I have a roll call, please, Mrs. Capiola?
Ms. Carbonell?
Yes.
Mr. Cohan?
Yes.
Mrs. Conte Mackey?
Yes.
Mr. McDowell?
Yes.
Mrs. Manisi?
Yes.
Mr. Nasta?
Yes.
Mrs. Scott Heeden?
Yes.
Mrs. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Santana?
Yes, thank you so much. We currently do not have any resolutions for agreements and negotiations. Next, we will have the Operations Committee Chair, Ms. Scott Hayden, to present the resolutions to be voted on tonight.
Good evening. Upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Operation Committee presents the following resolution for the board's consideration. With no objection, I would like to move them in block. 02 has already been approved. The item was approved at the April 16th, 2024 work session, and with that, I move 01 through 05.
Second.
Thank you so much. Is there any discussion? This motion has been properly moved by Ms. Kimberly Scott Hayden and seconded by Ms. Elsie Conti-Mackey?
No, Ms. Williams.
Oh, Ms. Mary Lynn Williams, my apologies. Can I have a roll call, please, Mrs. Capiola?
Ms. Carbonell?
Yes.
Mr. Cohan?
Yes.
Mrs. Conte Mackey?
Yes.
Mr. McDowell?
Yes.
Mrs. Manisi?
Yes.
Mr. Nasta?
Yes on all but 05, I abstain.
Mrs. Scott Heeden?
Yes.
Mrs. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Santana?
Yes. Thank you so much, Mrs. Capiola. Next, we will have Personnel Committee Chair, Mrs. Manisi, to present the following resolutions.
Okay, so I'd also like to pass these as a whole, as a group. So upon recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Personnel Committee presents the following resolutions for the board's consideration, P1A through P11.
Second.
And we said seconded by Ms. Great. So this has been properly moved by Ms. Manisi and seconded by Ms. Kimberly Scott Hayden. Any discussion on this one? Mrs. Capiola, roll call, please.
Ms. Carbonell?
Yes.
Mr. Cohan?
Yes.
Mrs. Conte Mackey?
Yes.
Mr. McDowell?
Yes.
Mrs. Manisi?
Yes.
Mr. Nasta?
Yes.
Mrs. Scott Heeden?
Yes.
Mrs. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Santana?
Yes. Next, we will have the Policy Committee Chair, Mrs. Williams, to present the resolutions to be voted on tonight.
Upon recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Policy Committee presents the following policies for the board's consideration. This is the final reading adoption. Policy 1 is to approve Policy 5111, eligibility of resident and non-resident students, and Policy 2 is Regulation 5111, and that also addresses eligibility of resident and non-resident students.
Thank you so much. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, yeah. Any discussion?
I guess, Madam Chair, President, I just wanted to clarify, like I did last week, that in this resolution and regulation and policy and regulation that there is a tuition base for someone outside the district, if they choose to come here, that it would be on tuition base.
Thank you so much. Any other discussion? Ms. Williams, just inquiring about where we left off with Ms. Kimberly Scott Hayden's request.
We are going to be having a policy meeting to address it and present to the board.
Okay, just making sure it
Yeah.
wasn't, but, you know, I didn't forget it. So this motion has been properly moved by Ms., oh, I'm sorry, is there any other discussion? This motion has been properly moved by Ms. Marilyn Williams and seconded by Ms. Manisi. Can I have a roll call, please, Mrs. Capiolo?
Ms. Carbonell?
Yes.
Mr. Cohan?
Yes.
Mrs. Conte Mackey?
Yes.
Mr. McDowell?
Yes.
Mrs. Manisi?
Yes.
Mr. Nesta?
Yes.
Mrs. Scott Heeden?
Yes.
Mrs. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Santana?
Yes, thank you so much, Mrs. Capiolo. Moving along, Mrs. Manisi will present the following residency resolutions.
Okay, so this is just for informational purposes only, but upon recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the residency committee presents the following resolution for the board's information. R1, student 266052 and student 270581 removed from the high school, transferred out.
Thank you so much. There's no vote?
No, there's no vote.
Thank you. Any discussion? So this month, there are no technology resolutions to present, but I know Mr. McDowell always likes to give us an update on what's going on.
And especially now because there was an incident, I guess an outage of our computer systems last, the weekend of 4/13. Mrs. Paul has submitted a report on exactly what happened, and it seems like the system was taken down because it was something discovered by Aspire Technologies, who are our 24/7 firewall monitoring system. But
I would just tread solely on that.
exactly.
Yes,
So,
we don't want to
and
disclose.
I think all I'd like to say is the system is back up and running,
Okay,
and it's been taken care of. Thank you for that.
thank you so much. No worries. I know. So may I have a motion to approve the bills list?
So moved.
Thank
Second.
you. Thank you. Any discussion? This motion has been properly moved by Ms. Kimberly Scott Hayden and seconded by Mr. Cohan. Can I have a roll call, please? Mrs. Capiolo?
Ms. Carbonell?
Yes.
Mr. Cohan?
Yes.
Mrs. Conte Mackey?
Yes.
Mr. McDowell?
Yes.
Mrs. Manisi?
Yes.
Mr. Nasta?
Yes.
Mrs. Scott Heeden?
Yes.
Mrs. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Santana?
Yes, thank you so much. And I will open up the floor to unfinished business for the board.
Madam President?
Yes.
So I have some unfinished business. I just wanted to clarify some statements I made at last month's BOE meeting in regards to transportation. What I was trying to reflect did not come across the way I thought it came across. So let me reiterate. I was at a meeting with our county, really going over transportation and the outsourcing of busing for our students with disabilities. And as a mother of a child with a disability and a staunch advocate for our kids with disabilities, one of the challenges that we have, especially our children that can't speak, can't tell us anything, are oftentimes issues surrounding who transport them, and things, and lots of issues that happen with our children on these buses. These buses are not union employees. They're outsourced, contracted employees. And based on that, it's always the lowest bid that's accepted. So sometimes what happens is people submit a bid, it's not quality, it's really based on what's the cheapest. And when you go the cheapest route, you get what you pay for. For whatever reason, I can understand transportation thought it was them. It is absolutely not them. On the contrary, my hope, my prayer is that one day we will be, as a district, able to have our own transportation team members take care of our students with disabilities and transport them around, because you know why? They are vested in our children, they are vested in our community, and they are vested in our schools. So to the transportation team, to the union head, I hope you're watching. I am so sorry if that came across. It is the absolute opposite. And Madam President, this might be some new business. I had the luxury of riding our school buses with our transportation team and just listening and observing. And just to say that, you know, we get it, and we're dealing with a new generation of students with so many factors, and kudos to our transportation team for being able to deal, adoring them, caring for them, but more important, being vested in them. And that is why I hope one day that we don't have to rely on outsourcing our students and it comes back in district. As I can tell people, the good news is there were zero incidents. The kids were amazing. So it kind of contradicted some of the stuff. But on the flip side, what we can say is at least our students know how to act when company is around. And so thank you to all that you do, transportation. And again, hopefully one day our children will be under your watch. That's it.
Thank you so much, Ms. Conti-Mackie. And if I could just paraphrase for those that weren't here last meeting, I think that what you're saying is that you had made a comment about busing, and the narrative was that it was specifically to Union Township busing, but you were not speaking to that. You were speaking
Absolutely
to the county.
not.
So that's that clarification. Thank you so much for it.
Yeah.
Any other unfinished business? I will move on to new business.
I have no business. Go, no, you go.
Yes. So, good evening. I just want to reiterate the statement that I made at the work session in regards to a program that I actually am attending alongside my grandson, who is dealing with a traumatic loss of his dad due to a tragic incident, and we came across a program that is offered in Union County, also in Essex County, and I believe they have other facilities around the state, and it's called Imagine. Imagine offers grief counseling, therapy for people who are going through divorces, loss of spouse, different levels of counseling that I feel can be beneficial to our community. So I did inform Dr. Benaquista that I brought a plethora of information to put inside of our schools and share with our guidance department, as well as with our social workers who come in contact with our children when they are facing such issues. But I also want to make sure that the community is aware of these services that are being offered through the community, because they are free. They cost you nothing. My grandson goes in a cohort. He meets every other Tuesday from 6:30 until about 8:30, and it's various group of ages of people that, so it goes from like little kids all the way up to adults. So, and they have sessions for every type of grief, therapy for if you're going through something, mental health crisis, etc. So I think it's important. I'm glad to see our administrators out tonight, because if you're around at the end of the meeting, I do have the flyers with me. If not, I will make sure that Dr. Benaquista gets them to you, so that the community and our students, as well as our staff, because you guys are important too, we need to make sure that you're healthy so that you come into our schools and be the best versions of yourselves for the students in which you serve. And I also would like to say to our administrative assistants, happy Administrative Assistants Day. It is today. We honor you. We respect you. I know what you do. Thank you for what you do, because you guys definitely keep our buildings running. And happy belated Transportation Day to our bus drivers. That was earlier, I believe, in the week or either last week. I can't confirm which day it was. But to them also, you also get our children safely to and from school. So thank you for what you do as well. And briefly and very quickly, I can't not recognize the work and dedication of Congressman Donald Payne. Knowing him very personally, his family very intimately, had the pleasure of doing a lot of work with him when I was on the NEA Board of Directors. Actually lobbied him quite a bit on the Hill So I know his work, I know his passion, his dedication to public education, to the Township of Union, to labor. He's going to be missed. I just pray that his successor has that same heart and soul to serve the people and serve them with an open heart and a willing spirit. So to the Payne family, you have my sincere, deep, heartfelt condolences to you. You know, he's going to be sorely missed because he definitely walked in his father's shoes, and yeah, just all of that. So thank you for your time.
So I have a few items, and Nancy and I, we attended this event, but it was to me so special. On Saturday, and I want to give a shout out to the Hannah Caldwell staff, Kim Conte, and the special education team, as well as CPAC, for putting together the Autism Walk. It was just amazing, and we had a lot of fun. I also want to give a shout out to one of our own, Grill Master and board member, Greg Nasta, for coordinating the DPW cleanup day. That was also a great event, and it was nice to see you working alongside with the school to have the students also participate. So excellent job. I want to congratulate the teachers once again. There are a lot of teachers in this district, and to be selected, a handful to represent all the work that goes into your vocation is truly special. And we're very proud of you, and we're very grateful to you. And just in time for Teacher Appreciation Week in the next week or so. We also had a chance to get a tour of the new library, and I would be remiss if I didn't say that is going to be a full-service makerspace where both the students, parents, and community will be able to experience art, escape through reading, and most importantly, create. Create in the areas of STEAM, science, technology, engineering, art, and mathematics. So I can't wait for it to open. I'm very excited. And Kim, I'm glad that you said something. I also knew Congressman Payne on a more personal level, and today has been a very somber day. He was a leader in the political arena, but he was more importantly a great son and a great father, and a person that really loved children. And I was very honored to work with him on a drone project for the school that I worked with at the time, and it was just nice to see him come and spend time with the kids and fly the drones, and just be there to show that he really cared, not only about the students, but also the staff. So he is going to be missed greatly. And my prayers go out to him and his family.
Okay. So you took two of my little things. You took the Operation Clean Sweep, and you took the Autism Walk. But I'd like to tell everybody that I attended the CPAC meeting the other night, and I encourage everybody to log on. They do a virtual meeting. They had 2 guest speakers with lots of information for our students and families to get involved in and to bridge the gap with their children and the rest of the population and family. So I encourage everybody. It's once a month. We have their website. They're on our website, the CPAC committee. So I encourage you all to tune in. That's it for me.
Any other unfinished business? I don't want to leave anybody out. Craig, Ronnie, Mr. Cohan, Mary Lou? So I don't know if this is unfinished or new business. I want to give a shout out to our boys baseball team, and it's selfish because my son is on it. They are a lackluster motley crew, and they actually won today. I was here while they were winning, so the ones I go to, they lose. The ones when I'm not there, they win. So I guess I'm not going to go because I'm superstitious. But so they have 3 wins and a lot more losses. But it's a new program. we have a new coach. I invite everybody to go out there. Greg and Ronnie were out there the other day watching the game. Nancy, too, she was cheering my son on in one of the games. So give a shout out to our Union High School varsity and junior varsity baseball teams and the middle school while I'm out there. And I'd also like to echo what has been said about Congressman Payne. And when we were campaigning, Kimberly Scott Hayden and I, he was one of our big supporters, kind of just giving us advice and speaking to us. And I enjoyed my time with him, and I'll miss those bow ties. Yeah, that's what I have to say on that. So with that, the board will go into executive session to discuss personnel and legal issues and actions. They may be taken once when we return. May I have a motion to move into executive session?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you so much. Mrs. Capiello, this has been moved by Mr. Cohen and seconded by Ms. Marilyn Williams.
Ms.
Thank
Carbonell?
you. Ms. Capiello, roll call, please.
Ms. Carbonell?
Yes.
Mr. Cohan?
Yes.
Mrs. Conte Mackey?
Yes.
Mr. McDowell?
Yes.
Mrs. Manisi?
Yes.
Mr. Nasta?
Yes.
Mrs. Scott Heeden? Mrs. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Santana?
Yes.
This one, touch fiscal, and then I'm going to do residency. I'm going to read the...
Next, we will have Fiscal and Planning Committee Chair, Ms. Carbonell, to present resolutions to be voted on.
Upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the fiscal committee presents the following resolution for the board's consideration. F42, approve increase to purchase order for special related services.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? This motion, any discussion? No, thank you. This motion has been properly moved by Ms. Dixie Carbonell and seconded by Ms. Nancy Nisi. Can I have a roll call, please? Mrs. Capiola.
Ms. Carbonell?
Yes.
Mr. Cohan?
Yes.
Mrs. Conte Mackey?
No.
Mr. McDowell?
No.
Mrs. Manisi?
Yes.
Mr. Nasta?
Yes.
Mrs. Scott Heeden?
Here.
Mrs. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Santana?
Unfortunately, yes. And moving along, we will have Mr. Benaquista. He will present.
I'm going to present, he's going to...
Oh, okay, great. So Ms. Manisi will present the following residency resolution.
So after some discussion in executive session, upon recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the residency committee presents the following resolution for the board's information. No, we're going to vote.
Voting,
on this.
yes.
And Dr. Benaquista will read the student ID numbers. And these are students that will be removed from our rolls.
And prior to reading the ID numbers that we'll be voting to remove, I would just like to make the board aware on R1, even though we didn't vote on it, there was a typo in it. The ID number for the 10th graders should have been 266552, just for a matter of record.
Yes.
The ID numbers that we'll be voting on now, number 1 is 298236, then 300055, next 241047, 310010, next 348161, 370781, 330255, 350260, 281044, and the last one, 320571.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Just a question. So how many students is that total?
It's
9, 10.
10.
And are they multiple children from multiple families? Gotcha. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. This motion has been properly moved by Ms. Manisi and seconded by Ms. Marilyn Williams. Can I have a roll call, please, Mrs. Capiolo?
Ms. Carbonell?
Yes.
Mr. Cohan?
Yes.
Mrs. Conte Mackey?
Yes.
Mr. McDowell?
Yes.
Mrs. Manisi?
Yes.
Mr. Nasta?
Yes.
Mrs. Scott Heeden?
Yes.
Mrs. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Santana?
Yes. May I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
No, students. Students.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Extended.
The two students.
Yeah.
That's,
Oh, that's right.
So my apologies. Next, we will have the Education Student Discipline Committee, Mr. Cohen, to present the resolutions to be voted on.
So I'd like to ask the superintendent to identify the student ID numbers of the two students that will be acting upon his recommendation.
ID, first student's ID number 240567, and second student ID 256501, and it is, do we need, in the resolution, does it talk about?
Mr. President, Madam President, I move that we concur with the superintendent's recommendation on those two students.
Thank you so much. Is there a second?
Second.
And Madam President, just to make it a matter of record, my recommendation is to, for a long-term suspension.
Thank you.
But
Any
you want
discussion?
to, you want to follow that up with discussions with the administrators, Frank?
Yes.
Any discussion? Thank you. This motion has been properly moved by Mr. Cohen and seconded by Ms. Manisi. Can I have a roll call, please, Mrs. Capiola?
Ms. Carbonell?
Yes.
Mr. Cohan?
Yes.
Mrs. Conte Mackey?
Yes.
Mr. McDowell?
Yes.
Mrs. Manisi?
Yes.
Mr. Nasta?
Yes.
Mrs. Scott Heeden? Mrs. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Santana?
Yes.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
May I have, Mrs. Capiola, roll call, please?
Ms. Carbonell?
Yes.
Mr. Cohan?
Yes.
Mrs. Conte Mackey? Mrs. Conte Mackey?
Yes.
Mr. McDowell?
Yes.
Mrs. Manisi?
Yes.
Mr. Nasta?
Yes.
Mrs. Scott Heeden? Mrs. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Santana?
Yes. See you Saturday.